Hello and welcome to Anime Style. I am Gary and Raver, and today I'm going to be reviewing the second episode of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid. Each episode of this series I'll review an episode of the anime, summarising the plot and talking about my thoughts on it. Today it's episode 2, Second Dragon Kana. We're totally spoiling here.
It's the best!
The second episode begins with Toru and Kobayashi going to the market after Toru accidentally damaged the kitchen. With this in mind, Kobayashi wanted to keep an eye on her as she did her usual shopping. She quickly discovers that Toru is basically friends with all of the shopkeepers in the market district and sees her in a slightly different light. We get a nice little bit of small talk that's cut annoyingly short so Toru can intervene in a robbery. A woman's handbag is stolen and Toru, using her immense dragon powers, subdues the thief. This leads into a very tense moment as a stunned crowd stares at Toru. For a few seconds, Kobayashi and, surprisingly, Toru herself are both incredibly scared of the crowd's potential reaction. This diffuses a second later as the onlookers applaud and congratulate Toru for her stopping of the thief, but I love how worried Toru is, however briefly. To me it shows that she's happy where she is and doesn't want to be outed and forced to leave, but that's just my interpretation. As they head home, they're spied on by the young girl from the end of the first episode. Sometime later, the girl, complete with horns and a tail of her own, rings Kobayashi's doorbell. This is Kana, and she demands that Kobayashi break up with Lady Toru. She then goes on to berate Kobayashi for being a slut in glasses, and wails on her, doing precisely bugger all damage. I don't know if this is a leftover from the pilot episode effect I mentioned last time, but I will talk later about Kana's actions in this scene. Anyway, Toru returns home and introduces Kana as an acquaintance. Apparently Toru completely vanished from their world, so Kana came to find her. Toru states that she is in love with Kobayashi and Kana attacks her again, revealing that the mana purity is too low, rendering her almost powerless. In case you hadn't guessed, she's a dragon as well. Kobayashi finds out that Kana has nowhere to stay and, as she is the equivalent of a child around 9 years old, is rather worried about her. This is when Kana reveals that she was in fact banished from their world for a prank she pulled. It's never stated or shown what this prank was, but as she's stuck in the human world, Kobayashi offers to let her stay with them, and that's how Kana becomes one of the main cast. A few days later, Kana wants to play outside. Toru carries Kobayashi, followed by a dragon form Kana, to a large empty field where Kobayashi promptly lies down and refuses to get up. This leads into a visually impressive scene where the two dragons are play fighting, using an array of powerful attacks. This actually opens up a rather significant plot hole, or at least clumsy writing. You see, Kana charged up by plugging her tail into a socket, replenishing her power. What the hell this has to do with mana purity, God knows, and it never really comes up again. Seems like they just needed a flimsy reason for Kana to not obliterate Kobayashi. Again, a little while later, the show is constantly using little transitions to skip ahead in time. Kobayashi is leaving for work and Kana hugs her, refusing to let her go. Kobayashi states that this came out of nowhere, and she's right. There is no real reason for Kana's turnabout in opinion other than they wanted to move on with the plot. One of the show's biggest weaknesses is its obsession with skipping ahead. A lot of interesting moments, funny asides, and even character development is cut short to jump ahead a day or more. Granted, a lot of the humour comes from these 30-second snippets where one or more characters do something funny, but sometimes it seems to gloss over stuff I really want to see. I'd like it if Kana's opinion of Kobayashi changed over the course of a couple of episodes rather than 5 or 10 minutes. Yeah, it'd slow the whole series down a tad, but it has no urgency anyway. The slice-of-life moments are some of the best. There isn't a whole lot more plot to happen this episode. Toru takes Kana into the city to teach her common sense, but it serves more as an excuse for Toru to be blissfully ignorant and Kana adorable. After this, however, they sit and talk. They talk about life in the human world, other dragons, certain abilities, and then about Toru's disappearance from their world. Toru faked her death after an injury and has only told a select few of her survival. This is one time when they don't just cut away, and it's all the better for it. We get a better look at Kana's dragon form, and the scene solidifies the bond between the two main dragons on the show.
So pretty.
The field fight scene is one of the few in the entire series where they really show off some of the extreme power that these characters possess, at least straight up on screen. While I wouldn't want this to be a full action series by any stretch, I kinda wish they showed this sort of thing more, if only because they make it look so damn good. I guess the point is that, yeah, these characters could destroy the world on a whim, but they'd rather hang out or talk with their friends. It's certainly a different approach to other anime I've seen. And I'm probably going to regret musing about this, but how the hell does Toru's tail attach to the rest of her? It's huge. I don't really have any thoughts on this, but this shot in the episode really brought it to the forefront for me. I dare say there's artwork depicting it somewhere. As a couple of characters have been established by this point, I thought I'd add an extra section talking about their development, starting with Kobayashi. In the first episode, her actions seemed to be motivated mostly by guilt. She felt bad about turning away Toru, letting her stay instead. While there is no specific time frame, I'd estimate this episode as a week or two after Toru first entered her life, and they are closer. Not romantically, but Kobayashi is beginning to see her as a friend. She held Toru's hand to comfort her after the scare at the market. By comparison, Kobayashi sees Kana as a scared child who needs stability and safety. She acknowledges that Kana doesn't trust her, but offers her use of their flat nonetheless. This is the beginning of the strong motherly instinct that grows in her as the series goes on, and elevates the character from stock sarcastic cynicism to a real person. Of course, the sarcastic put-downs are still there, and these are the main indicator of the gap that still exists between her and this random woman who dropped into her life proclaiming everlasting love. Speaking of Toru, she didn't go through any particular changes this episode. We see her mentoring Kana, but it's not really clear how well they know each other. Kana seems attached to her, but this could just be because there are so few other dragons around. Toru is still very jealous over Kobayashi, and if this is only a couple of weeks in, I suppose that makes sense. I'm not going to talk about Kana at length here as she was introduced this episode, but I thought I'd mention that I haven't forgotten I said I'd talk about that earlier scene. My thoughts on it will make more sense when she has an episode or two under her belt, so I'll come back to it.
Interesting, I'll remember that.
As they go, this one was very much an establishing episode too. Kobayashi and Toru are joined by their third full main character, Kana. This one was really full of transitions and skips, probably because they wanted to move forward to a time when Kana liked Kobayashi. It's a shame, because in hindsight the episode has little substance to it. Maybe it was a mistake giving Kana a full episode to herself, but that could just be me. I know, however, that the next one is very fun, so I'm looking forward to that. Thank you very much for watching. Please consider pledging to my Patreon linked in the description, and I will catch you later.